How's it going, guys? And welcome to If Naruto Was Raised by the Sage of Six Paths, Part 5. Where we last left off, it was Naruto's first day at the academy. He roughed a couple people up. He met a new friend, which was Hinata. And he was learning more about chakra control, and he is now learning the Flying Thunder God technique. Now, this part's going to take place a little bit after that. And he is 6 years old as of right now. So, I would say the next day when he wakes up, Jiraiya is there, Kakashi is there, and Naruto wants to have a talk with them. He goes to Jiraiya and Kakashi and he says, "Hey, Pervy Sage, big bro, can I talk to you about something?" And, this, well, sure, Naruto. And he seems awfully serious for some reason. What's going on? And he tells them, "What can you tell me about my dad?" And, it's been 2 years since he last brought it up, but I tell him, "Naruto, we've told you before we can't tell you about," and before they even finish, Naruto says, "I want to know more about my father. I want to know about Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage." With him saying all of that, they're just shocked beyond belief. "Naruto, where did you hear that name? How do you know that?" And he tells him, "The sage told me." "I want to know more about him. I know you both know. Please, just tell me about him." At this point, they really don't have a choice. So, they're not going to say, how he died, because that probably wouldn't be a good idea in their head. But they kind of give in and just start telling him bits about Minato. And then Jiraiya tells him, "Well, your dad, he's the one who he invented the Rasengan." And then with that, Naruto says, "Speaking of which, you haven't told me any more about that technique. I also want to know more. I've learned how to pop the bubble just fine. Or the balloon." Now Jiraiya's thinking, well, I guess we might as well, but they, for the most part, they continue on about explaining a couple things about Naruto's dad. And he's enjoying the stories about it. But then after everything, they tell him, "Naruto, you cannot tell anybody about this." And he says, "I know. The sage told me why. About all of his enemies and why I didn't get my father's last name. I understand. And honestly, I'm okay with it. Just for the fact that, you two have been here for me this entire time. Well, not the entire time, but, these past 2 years, you two have been looking after me. Thank you. Oh, and another thing. Hey, Pervy Sage. The sage was also teaching me about something called the Flying Thunder God." "Oh boy." Jiraiya says, "Naruto, was he teaching you how to use that?" "Yep. I can't do it, but I want to ask, is there anybody else in the village who might know how to do it?" And Jiraiya says, well, yeah, but this kind of goes into the fact that you can't tell anybody you know about your dad. For one, the third wouldn't be very happy with that. So Naruto understands and he figures, alright, I'll just have the sage, teach me a little bit more. But I know, he knows the basics for it. But he says, I want to learn more about the Rasengan. It's like, well, I don't see why not. But shouldn't you be at the academy right about now? It's like, oh crap, I forgot. Well, see you two later. See you, big bro. See you, Perfect Sage. It's like, well, stop calling me that, kid. That boy. And after Naruto takes off, the two of them are talking, and to think the sage would tell him who his father was. And then Kakashi actually says, maybe we should tell the third about this. And they come to an agreement, yeah, maybe we should. While Naruto was at school, at least. So I'd say, it was just a regular day, Naruto was hanging out with Shikamaru, Choji, Sasuke, and even Hinata a little bit. And just because of his interactions with Hinata, now he's not going to become friends with Kiba. That ain't happening. No, Kiba's a dick. But I will say he becomes friends with Shino because of that. So that's kind of like their little group. And after school, Naruto gets asked to go speak to the third Hokage. And he goes to the third, and he tells Naruto, he sees Kakashi and he sees Jiraiya there. It's like, oh, what's going on? And, well, Naruto, please, take a seat, my boy. And he tells the guards, leave us for now. And he says, Naruto, what all do you know about your father? Naruto looks up, he looks behind him, and he sees the pictures of the Hokage, and he says, well, I know the blonde one is my dad. That's Minato. Oh boy. I guess I got some explaining to do, Naruto. And Naruto actually says, you don't have to, it's okay. It's like, wait, what? Well, Naruto, I figured you would actually be upset about that. And Naruto says, well, to be honest, I am upset about it, but I understand why you all didn't tell me. The sage told me that if I knew about this, well, for one, they'd be treating me differently. Yeah, I would get respected, but it's not the respect that I want. I want to earn it, not just be given it. And with that, is also the fact that if I knew about it and if somebody found out, I wouldn't be here right now. I would possibly have been killed. And that shocks them, was like the fact that Naruto can just come out and say that. And Naruto, telling Naruto, for someone so young, you are quite understanding, Naruto. But I must apologize to you. I am sorry for not telling you about this. And then he says, did the sage tell you about your mother? He says, oh, yeah. And he says she was a good woman. And he tells him the same thing that the sage told him. He's leaving out the whole tasted woman thing, though. Last thing we need is for Jiraiya to hear that. And with that, Naruto is pretty much, he's dismissed. And after, they all head home. They probably, Sasuke was probably there waiting, wondering, hey, is everything okay, Naruto? And I'd say Sakura was probably there waiting too, because she has a crush on Naruto. It's like, yeah, are you okay? So, oh yeah, I'm fine, guys. Yeah, it was nothing. Don't worry about it. He's got his big old goofy grin, but I feel like Sasuke could probably tell, something is a little off, but Naruto will probably tell me. He'll tell me when he wants to. They all head their separate ways, but before Naruto, gets to really start going home, Jiraiya says, hey, Naruto, you wanted to learn more about that jutsu, right? The Rasengan. I guess I can go ahead and start teaching you a little bit more. Naruto was excited. He's like, oh, really? Thanks. So they head to the training ground, and he pulls out, he pulls out the balloon and says, Naruto, first things first, pop the balloon, and he pops it with his chakra. He says, all right, now this is going to get a little more difficult, depending on your chakra control, because I got a feeling that the sage has been teaching you a thing or two. And he pulls out the ball. And he says, you need to do the same thing, but it is going to be harder because this, it's a ball, it's not a balloon. Naruto's trying it, and yeah, he can't, it's moving though. It's moving, it's bulging out, but it's not popping. But even with that, Kakashi too, Kakashi's surprised about it. And, Jiraiya's, Naruto, this is really good, you can do this. And Naruto says, hang on. Do you have a couple more of those? It's like, well, yeah, got a few more. Why? Do you have 10 more? It's like, I see what you're doing. And he's asking for 10, just because of the chakra control. But with Naruto being 6, I would say he has access to at least 50 clones at this point. But when it comes to doing the chakra and all the chakra work, he can only do the 10 clones because it takes a lot out of him. But making the basic shadow clones, he can do about 50. And he has a massive amount of chakra. But in order to do the 50, I would say it also takes him pulling some of Kurama's chakra. So without pulling Kurama's chakra, he can probably get, I'd say 20, 25 maybe. But with Kurama's chakra, yeah, he can do 50 easy. But he's only going to do the 10 because it takes a lot out of him just doing all of that. It makes 10 clones, all 11 of them have, 11 counting Naruto, have the ball, and they're all focusing on, they're practicing to do it. And then Naruto decides, well, actually, while those 10 are doing that, he says, hey, old man, catch. And he throws Jiraiya the ball, and I was like, what are you doing? Naruto sits down, crosses his feet, and he actually starts meditating. It's like, Naruto, what is going on? And he says, well, the sage told me I need to work on meditating as well. Like calming my mind and focusing my chakra to different portions of my body just to help with the chakra control. Jiraiya's amazed about that. It's like, I've never thought about that. That's a good idea. I've never thought about doing that to chakra, a chakra control practice like that. Good idea, Naruto. And Kakashi's probably surprised too. It's like, that's a very good idea. And, they all sit down. Kakashi is probably reading, Make Out Paradise. Jiraiya's probably, in his book writing. While Naruto, the 10 clones are working on popping the ball. And Naruto himself is just there meditating. Kind of just, not falling asleep, but he gets into like I guess you could say like a trance to where he's even able to enter his mindscape at this point. He didn't know he could do that. He enters the mindscape and is like, whoa, I'm here. And the sage says, oh, Naruto, what are you doing here? You're not asleep. Like, I'm meditating. I didn't think I could do this. It's like, well, Naruto, while you're here, you're learning more to the Rasengan, are you not? I was like, well, yeah. And he says, well, since you're here, how about you start practicing the Flying Thunder God? And that goes about as well as you would expect. He can't do it. It's just, if he starts, trying too hard, he'll end up pretty much knocking himself out of his meditation. So he decides to just sit and focus in his mindscape. But then after a bit, he actually decides to talk to Kurama. And he's like, hey, Fox. It's like, he's like, oh, what boy? And Naruto, he's thinking, I know the fox doesn't like me, so it probably wouldn't be a good idea to call him by his name. That might upset him. So he just calls him, Fox or Mr. Fox. It's like, hey, Mr. Fox, can you tell me about yourself? It's like, and then why would I do that? I don't like you. It's like, well, this would be a good opportunity to get to know each other. I mean, I'm not doing anything momentarily. I mean, I am meditating, but we could talk. You know, what do you like to do? The fox, he doesn't want to talk, but the sage tells him, come, Kurama, this would be a good opportunity for the two of you. Go ahead and talk to Naruto. And Kurama tells him, I like to eat annoying brats like you. It's like, oh, well, why do you have to be so rude? It's like, well, why do you think you're bugging me while I'm trying to nap? It's like, well, you're always sleeping. Whatever. Naruto is getting a little upset. But the sage is laughing about it. It's like, oh, you two, calm down. It's like, Kurama, go ahead and just try to get to know the boy. Kurama is just... What is there to say? Okay, you made my room bigger. That's it. I have a bed. What is there that I could possibly like or dislike? Think about it, Brett. What do I have here to do except walk around? Okay, I will be honest with you. As much as it pains me to say this, I appreciate the fact that you made this place bigger. But think about it. Like, really think. What is there for me to like? I dislike a lot of things. I dislike you. But what is there for me to like? And Naruto says, your dad. I mean, there's that. And the fox is just, I'm done with this. I have nothing to say to you. And, the sage, he's not going to force that at Kurama, but he does kind of laugh at that. He says, well, Naruto, you've been here a little bit. Maybe you should just, for now, just get back to meditating. Naruto does so. And he's just working on his chakra control until eventually he hears a pop. One of the balls pop. Yeah, I know you might think it's a little early, but Naruto is getting a lot better with this chakra control. But there is a little catch. I'd say one or two of the clones got a little bored and stopped working on theirs, and they started working together on popping one. And it took a couple of the clones, but they were able to do it. So Naruto, he wakes up out of his meditation and he thinks, let me try that. So he has, two of the clones go up to him. He puts the ball in his hand, and he has the three of them, the two clones and himself, working on popping it. And working together, it pops. Kakashi and Jiraiya, are amazed. It's like, well, I mean, you weren't able to do it on your own, but you did it. So Naruto decides, well, I'd have to get better at doing it, but, well, what's the next step? Jiraiya tells him, well, work on popping it a few more times. And, he does the same thing. Pops it a couple... Oh, excuse me. He pops it a couple more times, and Jiraiya decides, alright, we'll go ahead and show you the next step. And he explains the next step of making the Rasengan, and, Naruto, with two clones helping him, makes a very, very, very small Rasengan. We'll say, if you've ever watched Boruto, it'd be smaller than the first Rasengan Boruto made. It's a Rasengan, but it's pretty pathetic. But he still did it. And they both tell him, good job, Naruto. But Naruto's not happy. It's like, this is pathetic. This is the best I can do? It's like, Naruto, you are tired after all. I mean, you did have a full day of school, a full day at the academy, and you had a lot of training today. It may not seem like a lot, but I'd say probably a couple hours passed by of just focusing on that. So, I mean, he can make a Rasengan, which, if you really think about it, it technically took 2 years to make, but that was mostly Jiraiya's fault for not teaching him fast enough. But with him working with the clones, he made a Rasengan, though it's pathetic. It's not even... There's no point in him using it just for how sad it is. But he made one. And after that, I would say Kakashi tells him, well, hey Naruto, before you head to bed, or before we head back home, show me the earth bracers that I taught you. And Naruto, he does it, and the bracers, they form on him, on his wrists, but then he also has the two that form on his shins. And remember, Kakashi did tell him, well, if you did learn to do that, I will teach you another jutsu. One that I think another earth-style jutsu, one that I think that can protect you. And he teaches him one called he forms his own shadow clone, and he wraps that clone in, I guess, like a ball of mud, and he says, earth style, earth prison. If you've ever seen Gaara's sand coffin, it's kind of like that, or the water prison jutsu, it's like that, but it's made of earth. And instead of holding somebody in place, it's more so made. I mean, you can hold somebody in place if you want, but it's more so made to crush them. But it can be used to lock someone down in place to keep them from moving. And Naruto sees it, and he decides to start practicing it, and he can relatively do it. And he's gotten pretty good at Earth Release just because of the Earth Bracers, but he can do that. Well, he'll still need to practice it more, but he's got the Earth Prison Jutsu down. I don't think it's a real jutsu, so, more power to me. After that, they head home, and that's it. And this is a relatively short part, but that's really it for now. Now, the next part, that's the one I'm excited for. I got some stuff planned for part 6. But for now, this has been What If Naruto Was Raised by the Sage of Six Paths, part 5. Thanks for watching. Later.